Welcome to Loup TV. I'm your host, joined by Scott Lynn. Scott is the CEO and founder of Masterworks. For those of you who have tuned into the library of Loup TV episodes, you will recognize Scott and also may recall that Loup is an early investor in Masterworks. They are making the most fine art accessible to the masses through as an investment vehicle. And welcome, Scott. There's a lot going on. That's an understatement. A lot has happened in the past year. I'm going to hit the headline, and then we're going to start to back up. Is you have now been minted a unicorn. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Left Lane led this round that was in total of $110 million that got you to that $1 billion milestone. Incredible. I think I probably will never be able to say that I minted a unicorn. I am thrilled to say we've invested in a unicorn early back in 2017. And what really drove—
that feels like a long time ago.
It does. And maybe just from our perspective, we saw the vision around making art an accessible investment class. And also we have known you from before that, and you've started other companies and had some massive success, and just know that pattern recognition and you have delivered, and still a long way to go from where you want this to go. But maybe you can just bring us back to 2017 and recap kind of what the initial vision of the company was as a starting point.
Sure. Yeah, that's going back in time. But I think, when you and I first started talking, I wouldn't. I think we had a very, very defined thesis that art as an asset class characteristically is really impressive and important, right? Like if you look at just the returns of contemporary art over the past 25 years, they've outperformed public equities, obviously things like fixed income, but even more importantly, they're non-correlated, right? And the definition of any strategic asset class is one that beats inflation and one that's non-correlated. And those are the asset classes that deserve a role in an investment portfolio. The challenge with art is that most of the paintings that we consider investment grade, when I say investment grade, really exhibit predictable returns, cost over $1 million. So there's not a good way for people to allocate to the asset class unless they have millions of dollars to buy a painting or a real passion for the art market. So that was the thesis back in 2017. And when Loup invested, and you and I have known each other for years now, so I'm trying to remember exactly what this was. Did the business have revenue or did it not have revenue yet? It didn't.
I don't think we did, but what you just described is the outlook. I remember that has not changed. It's
because I think we met in 2017, and for some reason I thought you guys invested in 2018, and then our first revenue was May of 2019. So I think when you guys put money in, we had our financial product conceptualized, which was effectively a public offering of a painting that was on file with the SEC, but we hadn't yet started really raising capital. So it was early days, and like any business, we had this idea of the problem we were trying to solve. We knew the TAM was huge, right? Because if you believe that art is an investable asset class, and you believe that it deserves a role in investment portfolio, and you run an asset allocation model on it, you get to trillions of dollars in capital we can raise towards the opportunity. The question was really, how do we actually execute to that? Like, how do we find product market fit? And it was challenging because everyone always just says, "Oh, I'll just launch an art fund." Well, you can't really launch an art fund because as a manager, we didn't have a track record, and people didn't really understand the asset class. Like even at that point today, we have a research team which publishes things like, correlation and returns. Like we didn't know any of that data back then. So we were just trying to figure out what's the right product to ultimately allow people to allocate to the asset class. And we just started kind of breaking down as many barriers as we could. And what we decided was an identified object where we buy a single painting and we put it into a vehicle that people can invest directly into that painting is the most likely to succeed. And then how do you distribute that? the only thing we knew how to do is really put a website up, build an investing platform, and then allow people to invest in that single painting. Now we went through lots of iterations of that, where we kind of, initially started with smaller investors and later moved up to larger investors. But that's ultimately what found product market fit. So I think, the difference between 2017 of sort of having the idea and where we are today as a business is, back in 2017, we knew there was a big opportunity. We hadn't figured out how to solve the problem exactly. Today, and I would say we probably found product market fit really well a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Let me
today
interrupt
we're just,
there. Yeah, if you think about the kind of the core vision of the company, that's consistent since the beginning, and that's rare from all the investments that we make. Oftentimes, almost more often, we see a pretty dramatic shift, a pivot from companies, and you haven't had that. You've been laser focused on the art opportunity, and then we also have had a little bit of the how the product has evolved around that opportunity. But then there's been this kind of the rise of the retail investor, and I'm curious, do you think that has been a tailwind for Masterworks for the past year and a half?
everyone asks that, and to be honest, I mean, I even say that it has, because a lot of reporters in today's world want some sort of COVID angle, and that's the boom of the retail investor during COVID story that a lot of reporters like to tell. But I'm not convinced it has. Like, if you look at the data, Masterworks was growing pretty rapidly pre-COVID, and those growth rates continued throughout COVID. I'm not sure there's actually causation there.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. When you think about the product that we have today, it's focused on physical art, and there's this kind of rising topic around NFTs, virtual art, and just to kind of play it forward, there's a ton of speculation around NFTs. Their values go up and down dramatically. For those of you who do not own an NFT, it may seem out of left field, out of whack, to be purchasing something, an animation, for example, that's on your phone, that you show on your phone, that you put on your Twitter handle, and ultimately could end up in the metaverse, which that's where I want to kind of anchor the conversation. But you're anchored in really the foundation of making the physical art world accessible. And I would just love to kind of hear how, because I would guess that you think a lot about NFTs. How do you see them playing out, and where does Masterworks fit into that?
Yeah, I mean, we've thought a lot about, as a business, blockchain generally. I think from a Masterworks perspective, the reality is, in the US, fractionalizing a painting is a security, so you're subject to security laws. And today, the SEC nor FINRA is really that friendly with anything blockchain related. So it's really not possible to take our securitized our securities and put them on blockchain today. Separately, NFT.
Let me interrupt you there. Today, it's not. Does that mean that it's something that could happen in the future?
We see it moving the opposite way. Like, we see the agencies becoming more conservative, not less conservative.
Got it.
So I don't see a path, with where we sit today.
Makes sense. I interrupted you. You were saying another point.
Yeah, with NFTs, I like to use the example of us buying a Basquiat painting, because I think it's just the easiest for people to understand our perspective on NFTs and why we're not pro NFT. So when we buy a Basquiat painting, we pay $20 million for a Basquiat. In that specific scenario, we do not own the copyright to that painting. The Artist Foundation owns the copyright. The artist owns the copyright. And under US copyright law, we don't own the copyright. So when you're buying an NFT, you're literally buying a digital image that you have no intellectual property right ownership to. And we just struggle with that. Like, we don't understand what people are buying, because you're effectively buying a non-fungible token that contains a digital image that you have no ownership to. And arguably, even worse, someone else may own the copyright to that digital image that you just paid for. Mm-hmm. So to us, this is just kind of a sign of the times, and lots of hype around anything crypto, but we don't see these as investments. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't think there's use cases for NFTs, right? I think that I think that digital images that are held within NFTs and maybe exchanged between games, for example, with different companies like Mythical right now, I think that's interesting. But people paying millions of dollars for a digital image that they have no intellectual property ownership rights to, I don't think makes sense.
Got it. And so when you think about this, it's good to flex, if you will, in the metaverse and with the art that you have. But you'd say that that's going to all happen. The metaverse will happen. Don't want to put words in your mouth. The metaverse, true or false? Do you think the metaverse is going to eventually happen?
I mean, I guess it just depends how you define that. I'm not sure how to define that. But I would say, even in the context of an NFT, like, whatever. If I buy CryptoPunk for $10 million, the reality is you can copy it. It can be your CryptoPunk, and you have just as many rights in that image as I do. So that's where I just can't get my head around that point.
Makes a ton of sense. We will leave the NFT topic there and focus forward on Masterworks. And you have this investment piece. Just knowing you, you are relentless when you see an opportunity to pursue it. How are you going to be pursuing the next chapter for Masterworks?
Yeah, I mean, now, so we're, we businesses go through this transition a lot, and we've gone from finding product market fit towards really entering the scaling phase. So we're now very focused on how do we take these art investment securities and effectively distribute them to all different types of investors through as many different products as we can. So today we have a retail product for people pick and choose which paintings to invest in. Next week, we're releasing a fund product so that investors on the website can invest directly in the fund rather than into individual paintings. We have a team now internally that's focused on the advisor community. So we're going to start distributing products to financial advisors. We're now hiring a team for institutions. So we'll be out pitching institutions soon. And a lot of this is just in the context of the business being older and having more of a track record, right? We have a 2.5-year track record now where all the investment vehicles have performed at 16% per year net of fees through September 30th of this year. So, I think almost any investor likes the idea of allocating to it. So we just want to make it as easy as possible for as many people as possible.
You're going fishing into some new pools, it sounds like. Ponds, pools.
With different products.
With different products. Makes a ton of sense. Could see how that could rapidly increase your AUM and continue to build the business. And I also just anchor back to the concept of what you've done. Masterworks is almost a verb now in terms of investing in.
I don't know if that's true, but I love the idea of that.
Well, it is. At Loup, it is. It's a verb. Invest in art. You masterwork it. And thank you for advancing that cause. Congratulations on the milestone. And if you're okay with it, love you to come back in a year and talk about how this money's been put to work and the fruits that you're building from that. So
yeah, I'd love to. I think annual check-ins would be fun, and then we could look back at some point in time.
That's right. I'm going to study up. I promise next time I'm going to be sharper on art, the art community more broadly. I leave that to the experts like you, but I will improve that off a very low base. Thank you for all you have you've built here. On behalf of Scott, Gene, and Loup, bye for now.